All the best.
Same to you. Best.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to new normal. This new normal for schools. New normal for schools and kids. I'm sure in this pandemic, a lot of parents have a lot of questions. To solve all your questions, we have come up with this session. I'm the moderator, Romal Surana. I'm the founder of Nanna Gyan Foundation. I'm a graphologist, a child and adolescent counselor, working in this field from past 5 years, and as a graphologist from past 10 years. I've been working closely with the kids with special needs, and I have tied up with different schools and helping parents and teachers to connect with the special need kids. My foundation, Nanna Gyan Foundation, is basically a foundation which works for mental and emotional development of every individual from different walk of life. As Nanna Gyan Foundation, we have been helping parents and kids to make that bridge between the understanding of everybody. This is very important between today's era where we have a lot of information on a click of a button, but yet the relationship has an issue wherein the parenting is not the same throughout. So, being a parenting coach and being a member of this foundation or being a founder of this foundation, I thought it is very important to have mental and emotional development of everybody in today's scenario. One of the few highlights about Nanna Gyan Foundation is that we have started with our own Facebook group, which is Nanna Gyan Healthy Minds, and in which we are giving platform to a lot of newcomers who would like to showcase their talent. So in this, we are giving opportunities to a lot of new people from different fields like painters, actors. Then we have people from different walk of life who have a lot of passion, but they don't have a platform to perform. And yet we are giving platform to kids, even who have a lot of skills, but there's no platform. So we started this platform on 17th of April 2020, and today when we look at the date, it's 7th April, 17th of 7th of June. We are more than 2,400 people in a group. And to tell you more about the group is that we have done more than 60 live sessions successfully with all the newcomers, in which 98 were the people who have done their first live session from our platform. And they have been doing good in different platforms now. So we are the source of confidence for a lot of people, even for the kids for that matter. We have conducted 3 to 4 good competitions and in which people have participated. Now the new thing that we are doing is Hasika Hunar, in which I feel that people have lost their smile somewhere in this lockdown because of the things which are going around. So this is the new project that we are working on. Now let's start with the topic, that what is the importance of the today's topic. Today's topic, when we say it is new normal for schools and kids, to be honest, it is not new normal. Very precisely, because it is absolutely new for everybody, for beat teachers, for parents, for kids. It is a trauma for kids also, because the whole vacation they were in the home. They don't know what to do. It is absolutely new for us. So it's no new normal, but it's absolutely new for everybody. Teachers are exploring, schools are exploring, and even for that, parents and kids are exploring to what to do in this phase. So today's topic that we are going to take in this panel discussion is going to throw a lot of light about how the things would be. Like we will be dealing with 4 things, in which we'll be dealing with pre-primary, primary, secondary, and the overview of education sector. So for pre-primary, we have Seema Tanwar. For primary, we have Dr. Anuradha Iyer. For secondary, we have Ishita Ghoshal. And for the education sector, which is going on all together, we have Mr. Pranay Oswal. So let me introduce each members with their designations. So Mr. Pranay Oswal is a founder and managing director IQ, Senior Director Bassett Education India, and Territory Head of Early Education Association. To be honest, he has so many things to be mentioned, but I have only mentioned top three things. Okay, now about Ishita ma'am, Ishita Goshal. Ishita ma'am has an experience of 22 years. At presently, she is the principal of Qatari International School, Kharadi. She is a certified National Quality Assessor in Education for Quality Council, and she has many things. She has done lot many things, but I've only mentioned few things to highlight her. Next, we have Anuradha ma'am. Presently, she is the principal of Jole Patil School for Excellence. She has an experience for 20 years in education field. She has done a lot of research work in the field of education. And we have Seema Tanwar. Seema Tanwar is the MD of Canva School Education. She is the president of Kharadi Women's Club, and yes, she is the territory head for ECA, that is Early Childhood Association. Welcome members to the group. Okay, so we'll start with the panel discussion one by one. So we'll start. The process will be we will be dealing with primary sector. There will be two rounds of questions. Every panelist will get their own time and their questions, okay, in which you need to answer, and the time limit will be 3 minutes for each panel, and there will be two rounds of questions. So we'll start with education. We'll start with Seema ma'am for the primary education sector. So I'll just get my questions. Okay, sorry, it got muted. So, Seema ma'am, as we see that today's scenario is in which we are more concerned with the small kids, our little ones who are below 5. And what do you see? How's this pandemic? That is, how are we going to manage the learning of these kids more effectively in this pandemic situation?
Right. So I think it's a beautiful topic that you've chosen, Romal. And thank you, Romal, first of all, for this platform and for this opportunity, to reach out to all our parents and all our educators. And I must congratulate you. You and your Nana Gyan Foundation is doing a wonderful job
Thank
of
you.
connecting everybody and from all fronts, whether it is children or whether it is educators. So really a big congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So yes, so our topic today is it's a new normal for schools as well as it's a new normal for our children. Now, as we understand, the early childhood years, it's all about, children running around, they're touching things, they're hugging, they're laughing, they're observing, they're listening, and it goes on, that's how they learn, that's how they move around, that's how they develop. Now, as per the multiple intelligence theory, as written by Howard Gardner, we have various kind of learning profiles. So children do learn in multiple ways. It's not just in a specific pattern that they learn. So for example, children might learn by listening or by seeing, visual learners. And as an example, if there are kinesthetic learners who will want to run around and do things, touch things and feel things, and that's how they learn. Now, let's look at the new normal now. Let's try and get into their shoes and think for some time that they are not able to do any of this, mostly any of this, because they are restricted inside their house. So they are not really able to go outside, socialize, hug their teachers, meet their friends. So, is learning not happening? It's not that. Learning is still happening because wherever you put children, they will learn. But I would say what they're missing is a structured learning environment or a learning opportunity that the preschoolers give. So now here we are, where as educators, it's hugely a new normal for us. And as rightly you said, Romal, in the beginning, that this is not really normal. This is something absolutely new. So when we started working about a month or 2 months back, when we started planning our, reinvent our curriculum, we had to think very, very different as to how we can actually give the best learning opportunity to our children, even though we are not physically present.
True.
So yes, it's been a new normal for the educators. So people like us who have now started multiple ways of reinventing the learning content, and we are really working hard to research newer ways of making learning effective. So two modes of learning is what I'm going to talk about today.
Okay.
One is the synchronous learning, and one is the asynchronous learning. So I will first like to talk about the asynchronous learning activities. What exactly is asynchronous learning? It is basically learning that is independent of location and time. So different children can learn the same guided curriculum, but from different location and any time of the day, or it's not really at a specific time of the day. So home environment can be converted into a learning environment. So for example, if we say kitchen, now not only we can it's not only for cooking. When we come to children, we can teach various concepts within our home at various learning zones. So there can be we can teach them fruits, vegetables, colors, shape and size, concepts of hot and cold, solid, liquid, and so much more. If we talk about gardening, if we talk about our balconies, we can talk about nature for them. We can introduce different textures to them, color, learning in the environment. They can talk about, we can teach them weather, we can teach them insects, flowers, leaves, so many things, we can teach them. It's just that we have to guide them into a learning zone within their house, and that's how we have to reinvent learning. Similarly, I think every concept, whether it is time or numbers, even in traffic signal, everything can be taught to them. So I would say this is where 70 to 80% of the learning lies. When they spread throughout the day, we give them reinvent the content and the curriculum, and that's how learning can happen through a guided manner. Now the next thing is the synchronous learning. It is basically where all the children come together, they meet their teacher, they meet all the other classmates, and that's where the social interaction is happening, which is very, very important also. As kids are essentially missing that these days. They are not able to find their friends, socialize. So I would say that this kind of learning, the synchronous learning, where they come online, they need to interact more with their teachers, they need to talk more, because that is what has been missing for them. So how we can plan it is that whatever has been given as an assignment to them during asynchronous learning, they can present it during this time. They can interact with their friends, they can laugh together, they can play games, they can listen to stories, rhymes. That's how, in a beautiful manner, we can actually guide them into learning. So this is what I think we can do to make learning more effective for the early childhood years in the new normal.
So this was Seema's perspective. Does anyone want to add on this, on the same question?
Hi, Romal, and good evening to everybody, all the esteemed panelists. And I'm sure a lot of parents, teachers, and even students would be listening to us too. So my good evening to everybody. Yes, now what Seema said is not only applicable to a segment of learners or to a particular society or a learning mode. This new normal is changing every day. What is new today will not be new tomorrow. So we as human beings, I wouldn't say only educationists, but as human beings, what we need to impart to our children is not content. As she very rightly said, concept. So the concept has to be going parallel with that of life. We need to teach children eat, live, read, speak, do everything, but with contemplation, introspection, look deep within, develop that flexibility so that tomorrow is another new normal. I am ready for it. Can I question myself as a learner? I'm ready for it. I guess all of us are going through that journey, the transformational journey. And whoever is able to adapt to it faster will survive the race, right? And this is what is today. It has always been there. All our educational policies have always highlighted this aspect of life embedded in learning, the competencies to be developed. It is actually the life that we are going to teach them to live. But today what is happening is it's so imperative. The change that is catching up is pushing us as educators, as school, as society to mirror this change very fast, because society is changing under its geopolitical, social, economic, every other thing under this influence of pandemic so fast that we are supposed to push our learners to come out of that. What is normal? There is now, we can't say anything to be normal. What we are today, tomorrow morning when I wake up, I should be able to challenge and take another new day. That should be the agility and flexibility with which we bring up. So, of course, seconding Seema, but as she very rightly said, definite activities at definite level, scale it down with smaller capsules for the smaller age group, and of course, then scale it up for the higher age group children accordingly. So that's what I would also support her in this new normal phenomena.
Oh, that's really nice. Now I'll have question for Anuradha ma'am. What are the major challenges that teachers and parents during ma'am? Can we switch? Is it fine? Okay. Anuradha ma'am, just keeping you mute
I'm
till I
on.
finish the question because it's echoing. So, what is the major challenge faced by teachers and parents during online teaching, and what are the possible solutions for that?
Well, good evening, Romil ma'am, and good evening, the esteemed panelists today. I am really very happy to be part of this panel because what we are going to discuss today is of utmost importance as everybody all over the globe is discussing this. And it's really a wonderful opportunity to be amongst all of you and as educators give more insight on these topics. As you were saying, Romil ma'am, that the age group, especially the primary age group that we are dealing with, is from the age group of 6 to 11. So this age group is the one which has just graduated from the pre-primary school. So they have come to a level where they think that they have grown up and now they are ready to take up newer challenges in life. And at the same time, they're somewhere in the mindset where they are still very innocent and they are not, they are ready to take up the challenges. At the same time, they also want to explore all their physical abilities and they want to play, they want to dance. At the same time, they want to be treated a little above their age also. So it's very difficult to tackle this particular primary age group. And so for the parents and also for the teachers, it is going to be a real challenge. What I feel is, as teachers, it's very, very important that teachers, earlier we used to have a we always maintained a good rapport with our children, but now the situation demands that this rapport has to be even stronger. Now, how do we reach out to the children? Now, as far as the online classes are concerned, when the teachers are planning for their online classes, they have to see to it that there is a lot of planning and organization that goes before coming in front of the screen and presenting their class. So if the teacher is well prepared for the lesson, okay, she knows that she uses the various learning tools that are available to her. Not necessary that those learning tools are only virtual tools, but the teacher can always use the resources which are available at her home, at the same time which are easily available for the children in their home environment. So she will have to think in that direction, that how can I make best use of the resources which are available in the given environment. And so the planning that she makes for the lessons, the teachers will have to work on, very importantly, the teaching tools that they are going to use. Along with that, the teacher will also have to think about uh, asking a lot of questions to the students, because this session has to be an interactive session. When the child is in a classroom, there are many other resources which are available in the classroom environment which keep the child on his or her toes. But when it comes to a virtual class, the child is continuously looking at the screen. So when the child is facing the screen, we'll have to see to it that the teacher keeps the child on his or her toes by asking some questions, and maybe in between breaking into a song, or maybe just ask them to leave the place, stand up from their chairs and jiggle a little. So she will have to keep them engaged continuously with various activities. So she can also bring in some physical activities while the teaching is going on and the learning is happening. As far as the parents' role is concerned, I think that's rather very debatable today, because most of the parents have this big question in front of them, that it's a lot of responsibility for us as parents. So I feel that this is let them parents should look at this as a very good opportunity to understand what kind of learner their children are. It usually happens that at school we are always trying to counsel the parent about the learning style of the child. Okay, and rather parents should take this very positively. They are trying to understand at the home environment what is the learning style of their child. Okay, and I'm sure in the coming future parents will definitely agree, and they will always support the teacher when the teacher is trying to tell them about what is the learning style of the child, and what are the measures that they need to take at home. So parents should look at this as a very, very positive approach. Now, when we are talking about the learning environment at home, the parent should first and foremost make a schedule for the child. So when you build a schedule for the child, the child comes to know that yes, my parent is also preparing me for school. Okay, it's not though it doesn't look like normal, but the child will start accepting this as normal. So first and foremost, the parents have to look at this as the new normal. Okay, only then the child will perceive it as a new normal. So it's very important that the perspective that the parent shares, the perspective that the teachers share, that same perspective is going to percolate to the children. So we all, as a teaching and parent community, should all resonate with the same kind of feelings and the same kind of thoughts about this new reinvented education system. Along with that, as a parent, the parent also should model that same hard work that he or she expects from the child. Okay, if the parent is going to show a very casual approach at home towards virtual education, I don't think the child will ever understand the significance of it. Okay, so it's very important that at home the parent also builds that kind of environment. So this is basically a collaborative process where parents and teachers will together have to make this entire experience, home learning experience, a very holistic and a very fruitful one. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for a very bigger perspective with regards to collaboration of parents and the collaboration of the kids with the school having been which is there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have anyone would like to add something like this? Or we are good to go for next question. We'll take the next question.
Yes. Well, Roman, I would like to add a perspective for parents, of course, for parents also, it's been the new normal. It's I would say it's been a changing normal for them every day. So now for pre-primary, since my forte is pre-primary education, so the parents of the toddler years or the early childhood years, I think it's very different for them, because their children have not really become independent as of now, that they can sit in front of the screen and they can do learning independently. So they are completely parent dependent. So the pre-primary years are completely parent dependent, our toddlers. Yeah. So we as educators for early childhood, zone, we will need to definitely have a buddy up approach with the parents to make this kind of learning effective for them. Yeah. So be it asynchronous learning or synchronous learning, we will definitely need parent support every time, where they have to involve the children and provide the right learning opportunity. And definitely as per the guidance given by the school, as per the content which has been given by the school. Now, we always say that parents and teachers both together are the pillars of education. And this is the time where parents have actually taken up a new role. They are, for the early childhood years, they are the co-teachers for us. So, they are very key to the whole learning that we want to impart to our children, because that's one of the ways that we can actually reach out to our children and learning can happen. So they've become our eyes and hands and ears of education for early childhood.
Okay, Seema ma'am, thank you for your inputs. We'll move forward with Ishita ma'am. Ishita ma'am, since we were talking about online learning, would like to know from you that how can we make this online learning very effective for for these students, especially for the secondary students, because they are little dependent. They are not they are not dependent like the pre-primary ones or the primary ones. They are little independent. So how are you? How can we make this online learning very effective for them?
All right. So first, Romil, I would like to define the word effective. It is a very broad spectrum, because everyone devises this word effective in their own mechanism and says, I am not happy with this kind of education. I don't like this or I don't like that. And then we name or label it as effective, right? And that is where the problem begins. What is happening is there is a lot of anxiety, there is a lot of emotional disturbances within people, because any change is never a smooth acceptance, because you cannot see what is there at the end of the road. You do not know where the road that you are treading is leading you. Therefore, it is quite inevitable, quite natural that the learner as well as the parents would have these kind of, variable mindset, whether it's effective, whether it's not effective. So here comes the role of us educators to define what is it that we are delivering, and what is the time span within which you would see some evidences of learning or some indications of learning happening. If those evidences, those indications are visible in the learner's behavior, his thinking process, and is consistently happening as a practice, it's always a habit. It is not like I sit with an online session and I have mastered it or I have learned the chapter. I just attend a lecture or I attend a live session and I'm excelling in something. That's not effectiveness. That's not how we measure education. It's a long journey. It's a process. So I wouldn't say only for the dependent learner or the independent learner. For all stages, any segment of the learner, we can make them independent. We can bring in autonomy in the learning process. But for that, we need to define very clearly to the learner as well as the support system or the guardian or the parents of the learner, This is what you should see as evidence. Outcomes of learning right now, I'm so happy to say, is not there because our boards are not going to test us now. So this gives us as schools so much of scope of being creative, right? And so much of scope to actually drive in this kind of an education where the learner works from his heart and masters skills, understands I can change and bring about a change by using math, science, social studies, history, civics, geography, name it, music, art, anything, all these subjects. And then let me learn. How do I learn? That's a skill to be mastered, right? And that's a journey. If I can teach a student, and that can happen for a 4-year-old child as well as a 14 or 18-year-old child, that how do I learn? Let me begin that journey. Let me start observing myself learning anything new. Okay, how do I improve my learning? After I have improved to a certain degree, let me again compare myself. What was I yesterday? What am I today? Where am I leading myself to? I need to know where am I going. And when I start taking onus, because now you cannot have an examination system driving the learning. You cannot have an examination system telling the parent or the child at home what is important, what is not important, syllabus, coverage, questions, setting patterns, answering patterns. And we are so glad that the pandemic has brought about this change, because now children will be learning for life, learning to do something that they are passionate about, learning to set up their own establishment. So when these children are made to realize this process, this is itself a learning process. And this is embedded in every subject. This is embedded in every curriculum. It has already been there. But we could never focus because we as mainstream schools were always driven by results, by outcome, by marks, because that is how till the end the child would pass out, go to the universities, and from there on to the job sector. But today, even the job segment or the business segment is bound to relook things differently. Thereby, that percolates down to the schools and the education system also. So as my personal practice, as well as a research which has been happening over how the learner would reciprocate to learning, is only when he starts taking onus of his own learning. We create a platform and a structure as a school system where we give him measuring tools. There are several tools which in a school a child would never use to do assessment of himself, to check his creativity platform. We all say, oh, be creative, but to be creative also you need to measure, right? Whether am I able to learn how to think creatively? Am I able to analyze how am I thinking on this topic? So all these are things which can be done all across the school for all age groups, but it's a very slow, steady process. And for that, parents need to have patience. The child and the learner is never at confusion, Children are always open to challenges. Children readily accept change because that's what age does, At our age, we feel if we are removed from our usual habits, we feel shaken up. As elders, it is we who pass on our emotional burdens and our crisis situation to the younger children at home. Children aren't. They are happy. They will accept change, and they have accepted change. It is just that the home environment has to understand it's not anymore an examination or marks which defines learning. So therefore, effectiveness is, am I learning how to shape my life? That is education, and that is effectiveness. If the child learns to check where am I going, and he's able to define his own goals and define his own outcomes, and the teacher remains as a support system, the curriculum remains as a support system to embark upon all the inputs that is needed for him, and then allows him to go in the journey, I think then that is effectiveness. And that is the kind of change which is slowly setting into the mainstream education. These kind of changes were already there in several schools and several educational philosophies in our country earlier as well as in present times, but they were not the mainstream schools. But today, we are also pushed into such kind of change, and I think it is a very good opportunity for us as educationists, as well as students, to get the best out of this, and our brain functionings would improve, our personalities would improve, we as human beings would improve. We would stop being so outward focused, so external, so marks driven, and we would look into ourselves. Our relationship parameters would improve within homes, within families, with inanimate objects, as well as getting connection with how I think, how I do my own progress. And I think this is what now education would be. It's a huge topic, so I could just say things in a nutshell as much as it can benefit the listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ishita ma'am, for giving us a very different perspective for overall education. Now, my next question is for Mr. Pranay. Mr. Pranay would like to know that what would be the rules and regulations for the schools now with regards to if it opens, or what measures to be taken with regards in schools nowadays.
Great. Thank you very much, Romal. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting all of us. And I also would like to thank you for taking this initiative and addressing this important subject. Having said that, there are a lot of regulations, but at this point in time, if you really ask me particularly, before we talk about regulations, are actually sitting at home. And not just that, worldwide, if we see the numbers, 1.29 billion students are sitting at home, which is roughly around 120 crore students, out of which almost 72 crore students are from primary and 57 crore students are from secondary school. But at the same time, what Winston Churchill said, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? I'm sure all of you would agree on this. So these are those times for all of us. And I would also like to appreciate certain things which all my co-panelists spoke about today. But there are certain regulations which I'm 100% sure we have three principals with us today, Ms. Seema, Ms. Ishita, Dr. Iyer with us, and they are already following certain regulations. And I should be very happy to say that as in from the capacity, I also have my colleague with me today, that is Ms. Seema Tanwar, who is also heading the PMC region for the ECA chapter. And we have designed a couple of policies, couple of regulations, not only for that, but having said that, there are a couple of other things also which we have done in association with the Association for Primary Education and Research. Having said that, there are a couple of things which we have done rigorously, and there are certain pointers which I would definitely like to mention, starting the research which UNESCO is doing about, which UNICEF is talking about, which the World Health Organization is talking about, which ECA is talking about, which APER is talking about, which MUHS, which is nothing but the Maharashtra University of Health Science, they are talking about, the Indian Medical Association is talking about, our so-called WhatsApp University and Facebook chefs, they are talking about. Yes. So there are certain things which I have personally felt, and there are other things also which, if at all the viewers are interested, I'll be more than happy, because it's kind of a 55-page file which all the members of ECA, they have prepared, and they have created this under the guidance of the president, Dr. Swati Popat-Vats, right? So there are certain things if we can do is, one of them is think about SMS. When I say SMS, it is nothing.
Pranay, are you there?
Hello?
We actually we lost the connection with you. Now you're good to go.
Is it okay now?
Yes. Good to go.
What I was saying is there are certain organizations which have done a phenomenal job, starting from UNESCO, UNICEF, WHA, MUHS, IMA, and the WhatsApp universities. And there are certain things which they have been specifically asking all the universities, all the schools, all the societies, all the institutions, all the coaching academies to guidelines as such. So I'll talk about some because of the time restrictions, right? We cannot cover, because that itself is a long presentation, and it can exclusively be a separate talk for that. So there are things which is starting from SMS, which I spoke about, sanitization. Second is M standing for mask, and third S stands for social distancing. So when I say this, it's very important for schools to maintain and make sure they procure good quality thermometers, good quality temperature check machines. They can run an e-circular that parents should also cooperate before they do all these things. They should also make sure that there is a strong backup of all these instruments. They should make sure that they should use disposable gloves when they are using and touching any kids, or even if it's happening without touching the child, making sure they have enough batteries so that they do not have a reason that because we did not have batteries, we did not do any of those routine checks. Another important thing is to make sure they have a separate area dedicated exclusively for all the temperature checks in every single institution at the moment in our country. Another important thing is they should train their staff and not just send anybody, and they should do it with complete honesty. If somebody's temperature is 97, 98, they should honestly make a note that it is 98. If somebody's around 100, they should not just let him pass just because he is not in a mood to do his work religiously. Another important thing is to make sure the demand and supply of all these things have enough stock and keep a track of all these things. They should make it mandatory for every single student, every single teacher, every single principal, every single management member, every single non-teaching staff, every single teaching staff to make it mandatory to make sure they are wearing a mask throughout the time when they are on the campus. It's one of the most important things. Without that, they should not encourage anybody to just walk in and walk out on the school premises. They should make sure to identify all the important hospitals who are really good in making sure they take all those casualties in case if somebody is testing positive for COVID-19. They should have very strong protocols for hygiene. They should have strong protective equipment. Any of the classrooms or any of the libraries for that matter. They should make sure and emphasize on the behavioral change. Now, this is something I would really want to emphasize, that there has to be a very strong change in the behavior of the teaching staff and the non-teaching staff. I'm 100% sure Dr. Iyer, Mrs. Ghoshal, both of you all are telling the same thing to your team again and again. But doing this and making sure they emphasize this thing in their daily behavior is absolutely important. Because what happens is, if the intensity and the frequency of all these cleaning and disinfection activities and waste management practices are not happening right, it is not really going to do any kind of justice to any of our respective institutions, which all of us are heading today. Another important thing which I would like to talk about is have a designated area for keeping all the courier packages in the school. Except for the school staff, nobody else should be allowed to touch or enter that area where all this material is kept. All the annual maintenance checks, starting from air conditioners, starting from printers, starting from water coolers, going towards solar sets, generator sets, appliances, reopening of any of these gadgets and appliances, if it has to be done in any of the school premises, it needs to be done now. I repeat, it needs to be done now, because once students are entering the school, and then if we are thinking, we'll call any of our mechanical engineers from here and there, local technicians, and then they will do it. This is not really appropriate, because who is coming from which side of the country, who is coming from which side of that contaminated zone, who could be a carrier, and who could just end up creating 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 kids completely at risk. That's another important thing I would definitely like to mention about. Another important thing is stop issuing books from the library, stop sending homework books, stop sending circular sheets. In case if it's a hostel, if it's a boarding school, or if it's a daycare, I repeat, if it's a daycare, which is pretty much applicable to all the early childhood centers in the country, all right? Or if it's a boarding school, which we have around tons and tons across the globe, they should make it a point. They should 100% make it a point to make sure that regular washing practices are conducted for all the beddings, sheets, pillows, blankets, sleeping bags, cots, mats, etc., etc., etc. And if somebody is not trying to do that, I think a child should be alert and educated in today's time that if something is not done right, just report it to the headmaster, report it to the warden, report it to the supervisor. In fact, I strongly recommend and I propose today, as we are going live, we should actually have health supervisors. We should have safety supervisors in schools. If required, we should have an in-house residential doctor across every single institute. At least this way, throughout, they can aspire to become a medical professional someday, if somebody who's willing to become a doctor, because they are closely seeing all these professional practices done right in front of their eyes. Another important thing I would definitely like to talk about is cleaning versus disinfecting. Cleaning is just removing dust, and disinfecting is actually killing germs. So these are certain practices which the staff should be aware about, and they should make sure that doorknobs, light switches, countertops, any of those areas, particularly libraries and computer labs, where phones or computers or remote controls are kept, they are done religiously. There should be definite usage of dustbins and not just throwing any of these things anywhere. And when I say dustbins, another important thing is to make sure waste is segregated into three parts. One is biomedical waste, second is recyclables, and third is compostables. Okay. So when I say biodegradable waste, schools and all the institutions, along with coaching academies, they should make sure that tissues, masks, gloves, sanitizer, bottles, etc., all these are thrown in biomedical waste only. When they are talking about recyclables like metal cans, uh, plastic bottles, or heavy objects, or cardboards, or dusters, or chalks, they should be throwing all these into recyclables only. And last but not the least, if there are any food and other organic waste, they should be throwing in those compostable boxes only. Having said this, there are many other things which should be taken into consideration. Per se, communication should be done through all our PTAs, executive PTAs, general PTAs. I'm sorry, Roman, I assume I am exceeding my time, and I just take 60 more seconds maximum, because this is something which is something to do with our lives. And yes, I'll quickly wrap it up. So they should make sure circulars are run through general PTAs. They should make sure executive PTAs are addressed through all of these practices. Admin teams should be conducting strong sanitization protocols. Pilot run should be done across all the schools before they start the school. They should do all emergency practices in case if somebody is not in one particular room. Nobody should be allowed to enter in those areas. If They should make sure that there are enough boards, enough posters kept all around. So just in case if somebody is there, and they should not just say that he's doing it only for the sake of doing it. So if somebody is to stand there, he just needs to stand there. There's also a poster over there which says do not stand over there. There's a poster which says face masks should be mandatory, should be worn throughout their stint. Washing of hands is mandatory. Usage of sanitizer is mandatory. Do not touch your eyes, mouth, and nose. Do not sneeze and use the same mask again and again. There are simple things, but if done religiously, trust me, it's going to create a very strong message for all. And last but not the least, it's very important for all of them to not hug and shake hands. Kids are going to meet after a long time. Teachers are excited to see their students. Teachers are excited to see all their colleagues, their staff members. Principals are excited to see their entire team because it's been almost 3 months. They haven't seen anyone. So it's going to be natural. They will go and embrace and they will give a hug. Please, this is the best time to say namaste, and I think they should try doing all these things. I think this should be all. But there are many more things. If at all somebody is interested in talking about any of these things, I'll be more than happy to share that document. And in fact, Seema also has that document with her. So in case anybody in our ecosystem of educators or school owners or any kind of a coaching academy owners, if somebody is looking for basic mandates, how to make sure that these things are completely checked, they can reach out to us, and we through Evangelist of the Early Childhood Association of India and APER, which is Association of Primary Education and Research, we will be more than happy to share every single thing which is there in our capacity. Thank you, Romal.
Thank you so much, Pranay, for the value that we have added with regards to what needs to be done, how needs to be done, and what all the protocols need to be taken care of. Since we have principals here and a lot of people watching us, I'm sure many people, the parents will be taking care at least for their kids when they go to school or even at their homes with regards to health hygiene. And thank you for all the information.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Now, when we move forward, since I was listening to all the members, I understood that parents are very essential in this phase when we are talking about learning, whether it is pre-primary, whether it is primary, or whether it is secondary, or whether it is taking the care of a child. In this round, I would like to know special guidance that parents should take, the parents' role in this pandemic, especially for pre-primary, because Seema, you mentioned earlier also that they are learning a lot of new things. The teacher parents are the co-host. So what is being exactly expected from parents, because parents are also working and they are also helping kids. So what is that exactly school need listening with them? They need to listen with school.
Right. So, Romal, it's a very important question because I think, as far as pre-primary education is concerned, as of now, looking at the current situation when we are all online, uh, we we will not be successful if we do not have the parent support, because, as I said earlier, also they are, um, our connection, who can fill the gap between a child and us. Our children are dependent not just because of how to use the technology, but because when they have to convert the guidance that we have given them for both the learning modes, asynchronous and synchronous, when they have to convert that and give them the right learning opportunity to our children, our parent is actually key. So we actually went online in Canvas Kids. We went online about a month back. So in the first week of May, we did go online, and the parents have been excellent. They have understood that yes, it is important for them to be around when children are learning. They have been buddying up with us, and I'm happy to say that I've seen parents singing, dancing along with our teachers. They have been learning poems too, and very importantly, they are around the children, because they are small. Small children need physical comfort. They need that the hugging and high-fiving. So when a teacher tells that, give a hug to him from my side, or give a high five, the parents are around to do all of that. So that kind of support, emotionally and physically, is important for a parent to give along with us as educators. So yes, it is extremely important.
That's great. Now, when you said Seema, now my next question is to Dr. Iyer, Dr. Anuradha Iyer, that when you said that when the parents need to be around, at times the parents forget that they are actually interfering in a lot of process of education. Helicopter parents. So what is there that teacher and parents need to learn from this, because this is something that hammers the learning of child at the end of the day. So how can you make this learning more effective?
See, when it comes to the parents' role during the virtual classes, I think parents need to understand that in a physical classroom environment, there is never a parent to observe a teacher. So even at home, when we are talking about the classroom, which has become their home has become a new classroom, there too, there should be a very positive engagement of the parents and not an interference. So they need to understand what is the difference between involvement and interference here. When there's going to be an involvement from the parent side, it is going to benefit the child. Instead, if there is going to be interference, the child is never going to value or respect what the child is learning. Yes, parent support is required. Parents' orientation is also required. So there are many parents who voluntarily on their own are researching and looking for various ways in which they can make this entire online learning experience comfortable for their children. But there are many parents who need counseling for this. And here the school plays a very important role. So there has to be some practical hand-holding, not only of the student, but also for the parent. So beyond the prescribed hours that we are giving for teaching, online teaching, school will have to extend more help to the parents to understand, how to get the best learning outcome from the child. So it's very important that it's together. So I've been repeating that it's only a collaboration, and it has always been education has always been about collaboration, but now it has become even more important in the pandemic situation. So it's together that the child will benefit when the parent and the teachers are in sync with what is going to be taught and what is it that they are going to learn. So that's very important, that there's a continuous collaboration between them. And of course, teachers also need to be patient, and even parents need to be patient. So I think patience is the key towards, a very, very good learning outcomes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone would like to add on this?
Yeah, I'll just say a small thing, because we're looking at a lot of national data where we see uh, parents choosing to opt out of formal schooling system under the present circumstances, and they may be feeling that this is a costly affair, and when the schools are not physically functioning, for us as parents, we always think school means learning, means it's a physical environment, and if that is missing, there is no learning at all. And for different age groups, and more so for the primary and pre-primary classes, parents are opting out of the formal education system because they feel if it's online, then there are multiple videos, multiple channels, and I can do that much of teaching. And of course, today parents in urban sectors are educated who are opting out of these things. On one hand, there's the rural sector, which is not privileged to have online classes, and the urban sector has the privilege, but they are opting out because of the cost factor and things like that. To such kind of people, it's a small piece of advice that learning is essential only in the age group and cohabitation, and even that is being provided in the digital platform. When two children interact, participate, listen, and accept another's point of view, and work together, it is just not passive listening, sitting in front of the system or the gadget. It is an active participation in the entire process of learning. And as you know, we were all talking about synchronous and asynchronous mode. All schools are parallelly doing both the modes, where learning is a constructive journey. So if this is the kind of education or support, we as educators need to keep on giving parents in small dosages, where they understand it is not about us walking out of a system or walking back to a system. This is going to do more harm to the child. If you discontinue from a structure of learning and consider the structure has undergone change, accept the change, let the child adapt. And in the process of adaptation, parents need to be very, very objective. As a mother or the father, it's very evident that my emotion overpowers my decision, and we always may feel, oh, my child is such a good speaker, he's not able to do this, he's a swimmer, he's this, he's that. And all these emotions are understood, negative aspects, but let's be objective and find what are the other things that my child is learning now or getting the opportunity to learn now. And that is how we can become objectified, and that is how we talk positive in our drawing rooms, on the dining tables with our children, because our children going to imbibe the same culture and the vibration. It is right now, school as a culture is a digital culture. It is the home culture, which is the learning culture right now. So parents have to be collaborators in thinking so much practical.
Having said that, ma'am, my again question to you is that in what ways, when you say the schools are parents are collaborating, and now home are the environment and the school culture is an digital environment, right? So what
Yes.
all things should be incorporated at the home level so that the structural learning happens simultaneously with kids and parents, making the online platform a total learning experience for a child?
Yeah, so first thing is also, as you know, all of us are talking with our parents, we are in constant communication with our parents, and as such also parents should reach out to schools, and of course they should be given the platform to reach out to schools, connect with their teachers, to different levels of the academic staff. One, that kind of helps in reducing the anxiety, because it may not be always I have to give you an answer, but just because you could vent out your feeling, it kind of helps you. most important, I think we as educators now have to begin working with the parents, as in we can't expect them to collaborate with us, but we have to take the onus on us. It is not just parallelly hand-holding the students and teachers, but also hand-holding the parents. So it cannot be like every day doing it, but in small gaps, in small installments, over weekends. We have to connect with our parents, and every age group has its own set of concerns, own set of limitations. We have to suggest them practices, because we have many pedagogical practices which we can enlighten upon how the human being can be connected at this point of time. And also our, the parents are exposed to a lot of media, as Pranay was saying. Our best friend WhatsApp and all the kind of medias gives in a lot of incomplete information and scares people a lot, and that is also a harmful effect on parenting, which I feel, in the larger perspective, the parent doesn't know how to evaluate or how to validate this information, and he or she becomes a gullible objective and then passes it down. That fear factor passes down to the child also. So here we have to come into the picture. Of course, it's a very tedious task, because connecting with each group individually is quite a tedious task, but yet in the journey of it, in the long run of it, we have to keep doing it. That is the only way that I see the partnership can happen, and the learning curve of parents in the parenting process is reduced, because right now parents have become the shared partner in learning. Earlier it was the school which was taking it, and we needed only small bit of help from the parent to cultivate that learning atmosphere at home. But now it is largely the home atmosphere which is going to influence the child's development. Therefore, it is very important that we as school take this responsibility on ourselves and start working with parents on a small group level, then a larger group level, individual level, every possible platform of communication.
So true, ma'am, that the points that you have made, that school are making extensive efforts of hand-holding parents, doing a lot of counseling, making them understand that how they can, learn the process and develop their own parenting, which is the process ongoing. Thank you for your inputs. Pranay, are we there? Am I in touch with you? Because
Can you hear me?
hello? Yes, I
Hello?
can hear you, but I think your screen is very still, so I thought that you were not there. Okay, so
Is it
Pranay, the
okay now?
question is for you.
Mhm.
Hello?
Yes, please go
So
ahead. Please go
this
ahead.
question is for you, that since you mentioned so many things about that, what needs to be done when in this pandemic, so any special instructions for educators, like teachers especially, and the in-house people in school, that how they need to deal with the situation during the lockdown phase, not when the school starts, but during the lockdown phase, how do the teachers incorporate these ideas or the habits that kids need to do?
Okay. So apart from the habits, there are certain suggestions which I would like to talk about
Hmm.
along with this,
Great.
Romal. So there is something called as MOOC, which is nothing but massive open learning courses. Okay. So under this, what happens is there are so many courses. I mean, Ishita ma'am was mentioning about this. Anuradha ma'am was talking about this. All of us, we have been talking about collaboration is the key, and parents and teachers and students, they should come collectively together and make sure that learning happens like this, right? So there are certain things. Lot of edutech companies around the world. Okay, a lot of these companies, they have made a lot of content absolutely free. The access is given to all these students absolutely free of cost. And an interesting thing over here is couple of these, maybe they are paid, but only the certification is paid, but the knowledge is absolutely free. This is that time of the year, perhaps, or that time of our lifetime, what Y2K was for IT professionals, right? The year 2000,
Hmm.
2020 is the year for all the teachers and all the health workers of the world. This is something which will create the plethora of opportunities for all these people. And as I say, right, there are three things if they all want to really work on. I also spoke about this and I coined this term at the Didac International Conference in Bangalore. It says attitude, skill, and knowledge. Always ask what you want. A for attitude, S for skills, and K for knowledge. If you do not ask what you need, you will not get what you want. And there are certain things as a takeaway for all the viewers, as a takeaway for all the teachers, as a takeaway for a lot of institutes who are really struggling every single day, and a lot of parents and students sitting at home, they can also download these apps and they can start doing it right away, right after this panel discussion that we are on today. So some of them are Allison, couple of major names like Canvas, Coursera, EDX, Udemy, European Schoolnet Academy, Future Learn, iCourses, TED Earth School, Byju's, then Khan Academy, Unacademy, Vedantu, a beautiful initiative by Facebook. It says Facebook Get Digital. Another thing from Discovery Education, another thing from Nat Geo at Home, another product called Coded, another product called Quizlet, another product called SDG Academy Library, another product called Scholastic, Tinkergarden at Home, Circle Time, History at Home, Highlights at Home, Broadway's The Lion King Experience, EduHam at Home, The Moth Homeschool, Math Games, Duolingo, Club Psychics, Bamboo, Scratch Junior, Audible, Simply Learn, MindSpark, ECA, and Aper are also giving a lot of free courses. Okay, I'm mentioning ECA again and again. I'm also talking about Aper again because these are NGOs. Okay, the kind of webinars, the kind of initiatives what ECA has also done is phenomenal. And one more name I will also talk about this, since we are all on this panel, is iCube, which I represent. Everything that you have at iCube is absolutely free of cost, exclusively for this academic year. So what we have done is we have authored 7 books on the subjects of iCube, starting from logical reasoning, verbal reasoning, linguistics, spatial interpretation, memory, problem solving, analysis, qualitative, quantitative. So we have taken the examination syllabus of all the global examination and introduced this at school level. So whenever somebody is planning to go and pursue any kind of higher education or take up any kind of a job in our country, they have to either go through an aptitude test or they have to go through an entrance examination. So we have compiled all the syllabus of all the global examination and introduced this at school level from grade 3 to grade 9. And we are conducting examinations through these books, which is pretty much similar to what Olympiad does, but ours is an exclusively IQ Olympiad. So to all the viewers who are listening and who are watching us today, everything which is there on iCube is absolutely free of cost. You can just download and start with whatever resources you have. And last but not the least, I'll end my talk with this beautiful quote by Arthur. Arthur actually says, "Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pranay, for giving a valuable inputs that in this pandemic, we have so many things to learn, explore, and so many knowledgeable things are available. And we need to explore that. Having said that, there are no questions till now from our viewer sides. So I think this is the right time where we can close this panel discussion. All the important questions that we have dealt with are answered by all our panelists. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of it and contributing your knowledge with all the viewers, all the people who are watching us and will be watching us offline. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Romal.
Thank you, Romal, and thank you, everybody.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, everybody. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.